Yo, what's up? I thought the day would change up the title, or change up how we do the introduction, because Victor always makes fun of me when he goes back to edit these videos, because he just waits for me to go, hello everybody, with the head shake. But you're not
Yep.
getting that today, you're gonna have
Oh,
to work harder in the edit. But hey everybody, and welcome to the CVRcade Talk Show podcast. This is the last one in the CVRcade World Cup Season 1. Yesterday, we concluded the grand finale. We've got our first ever champion. Quinton Molyneux of Team Cycling Hub wins $5,000. Guys, it's been 9 weeks. At times, it's been long. At times, it's been short. But we're now here. We've got a champion. I think, first of all, we should probably chat about the outcome. Quinton Molyneux, guys, do we agree a deserved champion of the first ever CV Arcade World Cup?
Yep. Yep.
Definitely. I mean, I think, first of all, I'd like to apologize for my voice, but it's going in and out of not being there and being there. But I'm here now, so hopefully you can hear me clearly. But yes, I feel like Quinton Molyneux, he's been looking strong all CVRK World Cup, and he is the deserved winner. But I feel like if we take like the conclusion of yesterday is that the deserved winners in this case is Team Cycling Hub because they just dominated everything. So what do you feel, Beth? Who was the deserved winner?
Yeah.
Or
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a
Well,
tough question.
if we were,
that's
we were
tough.
talking consistency across the board, right? And what we've seen in the racing itself has evolved over 9 weeks, where we've seen team play become more important. And I think as some of the instigators and sort of originators of some of the initial team play, they were pioneering some moves early. Other teams were trying to follow some of those moves, and they've been very innovative in the way that they've raced, and they've basically said, okay, well, we know that team efforts really make a difference in Cade racing, and they capitalized on that. And I would say out of all of the racers, no matter what zone it was, there was always a Cycling Hub person on top. Maybe they had one teammate, maybe they didn't, but we've seen that teamwork. And I think that what I think we can all take away from that is what does that mean going forward for the teams? What does that mean going forward for how we structure these races, right? We had bracketed sessions the week before, which was sort of not as much team play because it was 4-up racing. And then yesterday was the more team play. So I think all of this is going to give us a chance to zoom out and say, what does it look like? But without a doubt, Quinton was I think Jesper, you called it. You said that when we were having our lead up show, and I was like not letting go of my Modi prediction, and you called it. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that one of the most talented racers on the platform won the big money yesterday.
Now, Quinton earlier today did send me that soundbite back because I did change it, so I won't take the full credit. Like I did, I believe Quinton would win, and I saw it all the way through. And I think that Tim winning the first one, it only makes sense for Quinton to have his turn. But I did think that like there must have been more to Casey Shum joining Cycling Hub. I will be the first one to say I was quite disappointed having Casey on Cycling Hub. That I thought surely there's like a second layer here. Surely there's a larger game plan, but turned out there wasn't. It was another third place for Casey. He takes a fair share of money. He can be happy. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys, they played it to perfection. They can't be blamed for any of the racing perhaps being a tiny bit more dull than last weekend. And
Yeah.
you can't blame them for it because they're amazing and they're just the skill gap. Like cycling was up here. Then you have Velocity Vixen, you have CCC, then I think Cognition is just below, and then CVR, Team X in there. But man, it's been good watching the racing. It's been good watching it progress. But the grand finale, Vic, like you can't help but feel like there was something missing. You're just sitting there waiting for the climax, waiting for the dark matter velo moment of the bracketed session. And is it, I guess the first question is it fair to compare the two? And if so, what was missing yesterday?
I don't really think it is fair to compare because there was like the structure was completely different. I'd say honestly the biggest difference is that as we said before, last week it was four-man omniums in the beginning, which meant like you would not have more than one teammate in a zone. which meant you didn't get this team play dynamic. And I also think I'm not 100% certain, but Team Cycling Hub yesterday rode completely as a team. They rode like, we're sharing the money. We don't care really who wins, just if we take all the spots. And I think that was the biggest thing missing, because like yesterday, it was just so dominant and there was no real fight for the big like prize money. You only just saw, one team absolutely nailing it, and kudos to them. But we didn't really see this like battle we had last week with Casey, Sebastian, Niels, and Tim in the final, and same for like the semi. So for me, I'd say the biggest difference was Casey moving to Cycling Hub, which made them, just mind-blowingly strong. And yeah, that they raced for the first, I'm not going to say first time, but really one of the few times we see them just absolutely nailing it, riding as a team. They just nailed it. So I think that was the biggest difference between the bracket session tournament and this one.
Now, Beth, how do you close that gap? Because you're Velocity Vixen. You did well. Like Ryan, oh my God. Like, this is the sad thing about Cycling Hub, is that they were so dominant and everybody goes on to like, Kayla, Ryan, what a performance. Like, no one says Tim, second place, without even really trying. Everyone's like, Ryan, where did that come from? How do you bridge that skill gap?
Well, I mean, so kind of bouncing off what Vik was saying with, like it sort of lacking that drama for the 5K, is the drama took place in fourth, right? Like, because it was sort of, okay, that's predictable 1, 2, 3, 4 in some ways, but really we were watching the points display there. And me, I've been like, rooting for the underdog the whole time. And these are racers that on a 4 person omnium are not a.
Oh, I think we may have just
because
lost.
Of the.
Nope, you're
they
back,
were
Beth.
I'm back. Okay, all of these racers that we were rooting for fourth, fifth, and they were bouncing around there. We were calling them underdogs, but they weren't underdogs at all. I mean, the only reason why they were underdogs is because they didn't have teammates, and that's really the only difference. So, so Casey strategically aligned himself, and whether that's long term, short term, or whatever, for Cycling Hub, they removed a threat.
Mm-hmm.
For Casey, he just guaranteed himself less competition, right? I'd rather have cooperation to third than fight my way to third. And, so I mean, like that's just smart, that's a smart on Casey, but it made for some boring racing, I think, for 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
But Kayla and Ryan and how do these teams, bridge that skill gap? I think that it's just numbers, right? Because, when you look at the other teams, I think Cycling Hub, that's their industry, right? Like they have the ability to be full time. I mean, no one really has the time to be full time, but they like dedicated all that time to it. So all these other racers need to have a deeper roster of people who can commit that kind of time to the platform that they so obviously did, right? I mean, that is the difference, is that dedication to putting in the time, putting in the effort, and that's what the other teams need to do.
I think like no truer words have been spoken than what you just said, Beth. The time on the platform that Tim, Quentin, Timothy, Niels, Casey put into the platform. Like I had some statistics prior to the grand finale, and Casey was like in the top 3 of like most practice in the week leading up to the grand finale. Now, granted, he didn't need it. Like he was so secured in that, not having the threat. But a question I received yesterday is, why did we even need a grand finale? Why have the climax with the bracketed session tournament and then have to do it the week later? But I think it's important for those listening and those racing to understand we're just testing. Like, we could have just carbon copied last week's format and we could have done the exact same thing, but then we don't improve. Like, CVRcade is all about how can we make it better. It's always self-reflection and we look inwards. And the tournament last weekend, oh my God, like the best I've ever seen in my 3-4 years of virtual cycling. Yesterday, it probably, and I say this with all respect, it falls on the opposite end of the spectrum. I sat there for 5 hours. It went quick, but when you know the outcome, like I said this in the chat afterwards, it's like kind of like watching Messinio or Scotty Weiss just walk away with it. You're waiting for it to happen. But the reason you needed the grand finale first of all, you gotta crown a champion. Like, you can't just have a bracketed session champion and call it a day. You need a World Cup champion. And then we tried the second format and kind of just fell flat. But this leads me to the next question, guys. What did we learn? Because we spent 9 weeks. Like, we as a unit, us three together, we have streamed, 3 hours every Tuesday, if not more, every Tuesday, every Thursday, every Saturday. Beth, what have you learned from the last 9 weeks, and what do you hope you see more of, and what do you hope you see less of in the next season of the World Cup?
Well, I think that when I sort of debrief in my mind, I think about what was it that went well and what is it that we could do better, right? So what I think we did well was we established this idea, a concept of omniums and having races and point multipliers. I think that through the open session, we kind of experimented with different skill levels of events to try to get the multipliers right. And so I think that in many ways we did really well with that, where you get to race 3 and the drama is there, right? I mean, I think some of the zone racing leading up to it was probably in some ways more exciting at times than yesterday's racing. And that's no knock on anybody. Jesper and Vik and, Frank, you all did a great job on the broadcast. That's not, you had to call what you saw. And there were moments actually in that we'll talk about in a minute, but that were like making me kind of chuckle. But so I think that the omniums we've done really well. I think we've seen team play come really well. And I think that we experimented with 2 different structures, right? Where the bracketed session 4 up and then sort of the team play. So I think maybe like zooming back out and saying, okay, well, maybe this is how we structure some of the team results, and this is how we structure some of the individual results. This is how we, maybe we say how many racers you can have in a World Cup. Maybe there's a roster that you file ahead of time, because it certainly changes everybody's preparation 24 hours out when there's these roster changes, right? And I don't know how you enforce it. I have no idea. But I guess the idea is that like, there could have been other things, and maybe it'll spawn more teams to come along. So I think going into the next season, I know there'll be some new power-ups, some new tracks, and but we need to take what we did well, which is those omniums and the points multipliers, and then figure out how we can continue to create drama and make really good broadcasts.
Vik?
Yeah, I agree with you, Beth. I think we definitely nailed like the omnium structure. I really think, especially the scoring multipliers, I didn't really feel, except for yesterday, it was very close all times. I feel like that we really, really nailed, and especially the no skill, low skill, medium, high skill. You get like the whole spectrum of what CVRcade can offer. I really enjoy that, and yeah, I feel like if we can just somehow just recreate what we had last Saturday, I think we're on to like a complete winner, because that was just incredible. And I feel maybe for the next World Cup, we should only have like one like tournament structure, because what it kind of felt like as well with the 2 tournaments is like, yes, Quinten was the CVRcade World Cup champion, but for some reason it just didn't feel like yes, he won, because there was a tournament the week before where Tim won. So you're kind of like, who actually is the best? Like you're not really sure. So I feel for the next one, maybe we should just have one, maybe a longer tournament that spans 2 weeks. I don't really know. But yeah, I definitely feel like, yeah, the omnium structure is like the biggest thing with the 4-up racing, close score multipliers. And I feel adding more tracks, adding more power-ups, and I think the gameplay is just going to evolve. I also feel like the personalities is a big takeaway from the World Cup, because if someone has the time to go and look like the first stream we did in the World Cup, maybe see like how some people acted, and then see them now and like, but these are the same people. So I feel like more people on the platform, more teams, make it more like even, because right now it's very like Cycling Hub are just up here while the rest are kind of laying down here. I feel like if we can get some more people and just more teams and just evolve the gameplay, and it's all good.
It's fun in terms of the progression on the stream. We've also seen like regression. Like Quinten yesterday, he may have won, but I felt like slightly like when I was interviewing him, he was so concentrated on winning the races that he didn't feel comfortable being interviewed. And it's funny how someone like Nigel initially, like we always come back to Nigel. Nigel was very like meh, and now he's can't shut up, and it's amazing. Meanwhile, Quentin started like, oh, I can't. Now I'm gonna talk, and then yesterday it's all business. So there's like these story arcs that keep going like this, and I think we'll see more of that. That's a good point. But I think the main thing I learned is that you need to, somewhat what you guys are saying, but you really need to distribute the quality of racers on the platform. And now there are two ways of doing it. Either the players, the racers on the platform, can go about it in their own way and get better. Like we saw Ben drastically improve. Ryan towards the end was amazing. Kayla got better and better. And these guys, they need to get out there and they just need to improve. And as a unit, I mean, Cognition is coming up as well. They got to get better to take on Cycling Hub, because even if we were to do a 4-up tournament, let's not forget, we were seconds away from all 4 Cycling Hub riders in the finale. As amazing as that Saturday was, we were 1 second away from having 2 weekends back-to-back, all Cycling Hub. It speaks to the volume, how good they are, but the second option is for the organizational team to enforce a split-up. And now this isn't really in the best interest of anybody, because you want to make sure that the community doesn't get, we don't want to try and force things upon people. But this is my personal thoughts, and I've been running around with this. Imagine a draft. Imagine you take the best racers. You take Quentin, Tim, Casey, Sebastian, Moti, and then you draft your team. And throughout the next weeks, this is your team. Now you have even out the playing field. Now you show the diversity of the platform, and you don't just have this polarizing, like, these guys have an IQ of 250, these guys have an IQ of 140. 140 is still great, but it's not 250. And so the biggest lesson I take away is that the gameplay gets better, people get smarter, but if everybody doesn't get smarter together, oh my goodness, can it be dull to watch, like free riders right up into the distance. And I think, like, let's be honest here, guys. Frank yesterday in the beginning of the World Cup finale, he got agitated. Like, at some point when Frank was making a point, I muted my microphone. I looked to Vik and I'm like, I don't know what to do here. He's literally saying that, oh my God, this is mediocrity. Ryan, Kayla, Ben are letting Tim up the road. I'm like, yeah, but they're probably dead, Frank. I don't care. Like, what do I do? So Beth, like that frustration, can you get where it's coming from?
Well, yeah, and I mean, when when your legs aren't answering, like I can bet you $1 bajillion that Ryan, Kayla, and Ben were like, I know, I don't want them up the road.
Go quicker.
Yes. That again, we talk a lot about the format and stuff, but yesterday was the second day of the longest real omnium of eight races, right? So everyone had a long day, and I don't care how much people say they didn't go deep on Saturday, everyone did, and then I had said in the podcast immediately after that it was like everyone needs to focus on recovery, right? Whatever. So whoever recovers the best comes into the next day with better legs, and everybody was feeling the fatigue, and so coming into the racing and knowing you have that many more, there's a mental toughness. We've talked about the confidence, and maybe there was some holding back there that Frank was seeing. Maybe there was some holding back that where people were maybe not working as hard on that race, and his point was well taken. You have to go. You cannot. You need to be decisive. You need to go now. Go now. And when I listen to you guys say, Beth really needs to do this, and I'm like, I do, I really do. Thanks, guys. Like, unless I forget, I really need to do this. I go down, but yeah. But yesterday,
the other side, you're also like,
say,
shut up, Jesper and Fred. Just shut up. Just let me do my thing. Shut up,
please.
No, I want my legs to shut up. That's what I want, my legs to shut up. But so I think that we just wanted to see some shakeups, and so I guess I wasn't the only one that wanted a little bit of drama and intrigue from again, they're not underdogs, but they were underdogs because they didn't have teammates,
Well,
because
David
they're
versus
all
Goliath. Five
Basically.
racers, five of the best racers on the platform, all the same team, versus one, versus one, versus one. You're underdogs.
Yes.
Yes.
No matter who
Yes.
you are, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that could have been Sebastian in the finals. You're still a massive underdog because you saw the blocking going around yesterday. Like Cognition, what they did. Like this is going to be controversial because I know I spoke to Timothy and Timothy was like, I liked it, but I don't get why I get all the blame for being a blocker when that happens to me. Like Cognition blocks me, yeah, I'm still the blocker. And I really like what they did because they embrace it. Like I wish all the teams on the platform would just be like, yeah, we block. So what? Move on with it. And I think that's a progression we've seen as well, where in the beginning, people couldn't shut up about blocking. It was blocking this, blocking that, like, oh my goodness, whatever you did to me. Like, Peter would be relentless on Facebook, be like, yeah, this blocking thing, I've had enough, I'm going back to Swift. 2 days later, he's on the platform again. Now people don't want to talk about it. That's so funny. It's so awesome to see that progression. But let's not, like, I don't want this podcast to be what can only be done better with the World Cup. I think alongside the Omniums, what really went well is the level of gameplay on the platform. Like how engaging it is to watch the racing with so few racers is impressive. Like we only really had 30, 40 active racers, and it was so fun. Like the storylines were different. Like in a Swift race, if you had 40 racers, that would be so dull. Like it'd be incredibly dull. I can only imagine once you scale it up what it could be like. But an issue we're facing here, Vik, is stamina. It's endurance. Like Aaron and Jennifer are amazing bike riders on Cade, but they just seem after 2 events, 3 events to just not have it. How? Because physical equalization is amazing. It makes the gameplay fun. How do you equalize stamina? Or do you even have to? Sorry.
No, I honestly don't think you should. And I don't think you have to as well, because that is a form of, like I say, it's a bit of a skill as well, because yes, we see these riders do well for 1 or 2 races, but when you think about it, even though you're physically equalized, you still have to spend hours upon hours on your bike riding to that number, and that needs some form of endurance. And I feel like, yes, I guess you could equalize it, but I'm not sure how fair that is, because let's say in theory that we know that Aaron and Jennifer can produce this power for 1 or 2 races, but then the 3rd and 4th race their power goes down by 30%, let's say, and then they equalize it, so they put it up, so they only have to produce 70% of their original number. I feel like honestly that would be unfair, and I don't think that ever should be implemented. So for my sake, please don't, because I feel like endurance you need, because we still get great stories of these people winning, but maybe they can't win all the races, but they can at least win one or like a few of them, which I feel is a lot better than Swift, where only the strongest people can win. Like you never see just a random person winning. You know exactly who is going to win. So I feel like, no, let's not have physical stamina equalization, whatever you like to call
Trademark.
it. Yeah, trademark that one. I feel like that should still be in the game, because Tim, Quinton, Casey, Niels, Timothy, they have the endurance to go for how many races, and I mean they still have to produce the same power race in and race out, and I feel like that should be rewarded. So
Beth?
Let's not have it.
Yeah.
My point of view.
I have some thoughts here on that, because, so I agree with you 100%. World Cup is the penultimate, right? This is like, we are trying to like make something really incredible and really hard and something aspirational, but that everyone has the opportunity to compete with. So we give physical equalization. If it takes you 6 months to build the stamina for like World Cup season 6, that's what you do. right? Like you don't just like waltz in and get it, right? Like you have to build up that endurance. That's just the arc of any sport, right? It takes time, and that's not to knock any of the racers that don't have the endurance. They're like totally kicking butt, and there are plenty of races I think that are going to evolve on the platform that are going to be CVRcade races, that are going to be Velocity Vixen races, that are going to be, right now we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to be able to have so many different races where people are going to be able to practice and get better and strut their stuff and have their trophy cases, and then they're going to be able to all come together, and all of these skills, your gameplay skills, your endurance, your team play, to put on display for what we call the World Cup. And that's evolving too. But I really do feel like, when I was like going 8 races, man, that's brutal. And I'm like, well, it shouldn't be easy. That's a lot of money. Like it shouldn't be that like I have the highest, watts per kilogram and, like that stuff. It shouldn't be. It should be, no, wait a minute. I am a decent racer. I have like I have some skills. I know where I can improve. I have opportunities for improvement. Like I had a self-assessment of what I need to do, and I make a decision as an individual, like, is it worth it for me to put in the time? And and every individual has to ask that question of themselves, like, what is it going to take if I really want this, and set a goal. But it shouldn't be easy. It should be hard and it should be aspirational, but we should all have an equal slice at it, equal swing at it.
I'd like to see like Velocity Vixen and CCC Cycling Hub set up events, but I'm more interested to see if Aaron was to set up a set of events for an Omnium. What would they look like?
I kind of know what it would be.
What?
Probably Aquavelo 3 laps, Echelon 1 lap, just sprint finish, full gas, and it's over.
Well, it is Earthquake Aaron, so we'll see if he can figure that out. But I'd like to see that, and I agree, like, community, like, the reason we're doing the track builder competition, which we'll announce formally this coming Wednesday, the reason we're doing this is to make sure that the community, because this is coming out of our pocket. Like, I mean, Beth, Vik, and I are putting prize money on the line here. CVR has nothing to do with this, and we're doing this to be community instigators, because this, like, we can't just rely on CVR, the Vanessas and the higher ups to just hold our hand all the way through. If we are enjoying our time here, and if we want to do this for a longer period of time, we as a community have to do our bit. And that's why the track builder competition is on Wednesday. But Vik, I think like something as well that's like, this might be a bit longer podcast than usual, guys, but something that's, well, for us, a big thing is the live streaming. Like, let's talk about the last 9 weeks from our point of view, learning how to use vMix, how to like refine the template. As the vMix operator, as the person in charge of organizing all this, take me through the journey you've been on.
Yeah, it's been a massive journey. I mean, I remember, like, I've never really done vMix operating before joining CVRcade, and it's definitely different to just editing a video because everything happens in real time. And I recall like not really knowing how to use the software. And, when we did the team league back in June, like the way we went about things was a lot more simple. Like you might not notice, but, there's subtle changes all the time. Maybe if we switch to scene, like I have to change the name, change the webcam. And I do that while the broadcast is going on, like next to Jesper while he's commentating. And before, back in June and stuff, when we weren't really used to doing it, I wouldn't really know exactly, how to slow down replays, all these sort of small things. Now, I really hope someone notices those subtle changes, but I really like for people to go back, watch the stream a few months ago and just see the progression, because from my point of view, the way I use vMix now is completely different to the way I used to use it. And it's so much fun. And basically how I see CVRK racing is just like these moments, like cut to this person. Oh, something is happening. Yes, replay, exciting. Like that's how I see it. So it's really a lot of fun. And yeah, it's evolving all the time. I mean, we're changing the template, we're adding scenes. So hopefully we're making a fun live stream for people to watch.
Vik, how about the yesterday about VMix calls because
Yeah,
we had that last Saturday and now this Saturday and Sunday again. Take everybody through. So I think a lot of you out there take this for granted because you get a picture from Victor or I and you know when to join, but there's so much going on.
Yeah, like basically how we do it, we have these keys and we have all the names on there, and we have 8 scenes, and we have 7 riders we use at all times. And there's a vMix call number, which you usually get from us, me or Jesper. And basically yesterday, what happened was that everyone, and I'm glad that somehow we organized it in a way which made it that there was like no mistakes. I think there was maybe like 1 or 2 races in the beginning where someone hadn't joined, but I think we nailed it pretty well. And I feel like that was like all the training building up, because basically if there's 2 people occupying the same number, if one person joins while the other person is in, he just goes away. And that does happen because it's hard to communicate to someone like, okay, please don't join before this time because the other person might be in.
And then they don't
but
respect
yesterday,
it.
no, but that's difficult if you don't know how
Yes.
it works. So, I mean, I don't blame anyone for joining just a random number they got, but you know, maybe sometimes it's not very good, but it doesn't really matter. Anyways, yesterday, when we switched from the lower bracket to the semifinal 1, and same for semifinal 2, was that every single call had to change, which means I have to change the person, the name tag, I have to change the call, I have to adjust the call, and we have to be aware that everyone is in. I have to switch on the vMix keys, the names, so I remember which button is which, because like I can't remember all the buttons. I need to have a name. So all this just happened while maybe there was a replay going on. And I do know some people complain about clicking. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just all the clicking that needs to be done, which is a shame. But, you know, we want all the racers to be in. And I think, yeah, we nailed it without not a lot of trouble. So stressful, but a lot of fun.
I'm proud of the work we've done, but also, like, Beth, you've been on a similar journey because in the beginning of the broadcasting, everything, like, you're great, like, you now, Beth, are amazing as a commentator, but in the beginning, I remember the struggles we used to have, like, getting everything in, being able to see the vMix call, because in the beginning, you only had pixels to look at, and it's tough to commentate off that. For you, what's it been like to start in, only see the pixels, and now you're in the game, you're calling it, and you're up there as like the best on the platform when it comes to commentary?
Oh, well, thank you, Jesper. Before I talk about my journey, I just want to give you both a compliment here because, and I've been doing broadcasting for a very long time, and the world has changed from sort of broadcasting cable to all of this streaming stuff. And the vMix software is amazing. It's deep, it's rich. But I've sat in control rooms with 12 people manning the controls with the screens and that's where I cut my teeth. And the amount of sort of individual jobs that the software has replaced doesn't replace the individual tasks. So every time there's a little wipe on of the power up, you need to know the awareness that it happened. 2, you have to bring it in at the right time. Like those things are not lost on me at all, let alone. So when you're watching a news broadcast and they're like going live to the fire or live to the storm or whatever, it's like, there's a team doing that of like at least 6 people. I guarantee you that. And so from my broadcasting background over the years of when, technology was a dinosaur, and to see what can be done now, I sincerely, I geek out on it. I appreciate it. And so it's not lost on me. All of those little things, Vic, if other people don't notice, I assure you I do, because adding one element in one thing really changes the dynamic of what you need to be thinking about and hearing and responding to. And it's like playing music, right? You're like, okay, the drummer just did this. When the drummer does this, I got to play my little bass part. And then here comes a guitar solo. And it's an orchestra. Okay, so that's that.
The
So when
funniest
all
thing
I
though,
have
Beth,
to
sorry, the funniest thing is we've got like hand movements as well because we can't communicate while I'm talking. So if I want to replay, I'll bring up my finger. If I want him to hold off, like turning off the audio, or I'll do
Yeah.
that or something. Like we've got this whole non-verbal communication going on.
I think that's because we
and you
know each
have
other so well.
Yeah, no, there's there like that's what we when I used to be a stage manager and talk to the talent and be standing up at the desk, like, they'd be playing an audio back and there's definitely like I'm listening to the director and I'm cueing them in to like know that it's their turn to go. So that is all like, I mean, you guys are just doing the control room with 12 people with two. So and from my standpoint, I've done on-camera work before. Yeah, bring it up. Um, So I've done on-camera work before, but I am more sort of like I've always been sort of the host and of like, oh, let's take people through and do a show and tell. So this commentating in this way with so much, and I did Zwift commentating, right? Like, and there's just less to see. So, so it's hard to make it dynamic and that's not a knock, whatever. I had a great time doing it, but it was sort of like Phil, chit chat, and CVRcade racing. It keeps you on your toes. You're like, I want to talk about, but then this just then like you got to keep going. Like the train is moving and you have to like make decisions about what you're going to talk about. And that's where Vic, what you do is you push the storyline. It's sort of like, okay, well, here comes the replay. I've got that to talk about. So it's not about any individual rising up. It's sort of us finding that cadence and tempo together as a team, I think. And, I'm going to miss calls. I'm going to call it wrong. And I'm just going to like admit to it every single day. Like, yep, I missed it. Thank you for that. You saved my butt on this one. But it's a dance and it's again, zoom out. I'm so super stoked. I mean, are you kidding me? I get to like talk about bike racing and do it and like what a fun time. So, it's just been a great experience. So overall.
For 2 hours, I get to stand here, and I'm jumping around, by the way. I feel the same excitement, Beth. Like yesterday, Vic's like, what are you doing? Because I'm standing here rocking back and forth. I'm trying to like I've got the rhythm of the flow. I've got like, oh, this is where I'm going with this. And then sometimes Frank will just cut it. I'm like, I was about to make a great point. And Frank goes, there goes Jeff. And I'm like, no! As we've got, what was the name again?
Oh.
Burrito.
I knew it was some island. I knew it was something, some country.
Rhymes with burrito.
Burrito.
But
like PURR per. Sorry.
That is such a. I don't know whether that's an amazing name or a horrible name. Like that's.
It's a burrito.
I'll leave that up to the audience.
Yes.
But the whole like we were standing here and people get to listen. I get to just chat. Whatever I see is how the game flows, and I think that's really really fun. I'm excited for what season 2 brings. If you guys out there have any things you want to add, because I think it's very important to self-reflect. Like, CVR didn't just put up all this prize money for nothing. Like, of course, the idea is that we get to do this for the rest of our lives. And in order for that to happen, you, the listener, right now, you need to get involved. You need to be on the Writers Forum sharing feedback. Now, the conclusion of the World Cup Grand Finale, everyone and their mother was thanking everybody, congratulating everybody. That's amazing. Especially, like, shout out to Vanessa and Kathy on the moderating team. Like, the amount of times Vanessa has been up in the middle of the night on a Saturday to, like, moderate Zone E. Thank you so much. But now, when all the congratulating and all the thank youing is done, like, let's get constructive. Let's think, how can we get it better? How can we get more people on the platform? Because the name of the game is critical mass. Like, to make the platform succeed, we need more writers. So you should be looking to recruit a friend. You should be telling your people, like, look, I just won this money. I've been racing. It's really addicting. I mean, Homer got Jonathan on. We've all got somebody on. So, like, it sounds weird, but like, do your part. This is amazing, but Season 2 is coming. If you want Season 3, if you want Season 4, this is a collective effort. Like, whether you know it or not, you have a massive influence on the future of this platform. Now, on RGT, Veloton, Zwift, yes, you could do the same, but it's not to the same degree. Right now, we are racing the World Cup. There's money, there's prestige, there's the streams. Like, just tell a friend. If it's just one friend, you knock on their door today and you're like, check this out. That's it. And I mean, guys, I say this because we spend so much time. Like, the amount of effort that we spend thinking CVRcade, it's the small things. It's clicking follow on the live stream. It's clicking like on a Facebook post. All these things add up. And once we get to critical mass, you can be like, yeah, I made that platform work. Homer Thompson, I Peter Castro, I Quinton Molyneux, I Timothy Tamont. I will have my name on the boulevard of CVRcade, and I can have a star as well. I can have my hand printed next to it. That's kind of where we're at, and that's why we do this. But guys, that kind of marks the end of the World Cup Season 1 from this point. I mean, unless anything major happens, we won't really talk too much about it. And the next podcast going forward will be the Track Builder competition. Vik, any final words from you on Season 1 of the World Cup?
Yeah, I just have to say it's been an amazing time, and I feel like what we saw with this World Cup is, the potential of this platform, and I feel that like the climax of that was last Saturday, and like the esports element that we have, and the real life like physics and how it plays out. I feel like there's a few things obviously to tweak, and I feel like we're so close. We're on to a winner, and that's my conclusion. Like, the potential is there, and if we all work together, if we all have a good time, I feel like it's going to be great.
Beth?
I'll second Vik again, and I'll try to keep it short. But it's really easy to look at the platform and watch it and think that it's not much different than what you've experienced because you're not pushing the pedals. But if you get on and you push the pedals and you realize what it takes, we saw such high level of gameplay with these lane changes that you're like, oh, wow, I can't believe it. The confidence in the moves. And, if you're a viewer and you've never tried it, you're not really getting the full understanding of how incredibly awesome it is to be in control of your destiny in that way and to play. So, give it a shot. Come ride, do a rise and rip. I'll walk you through the stuff, got a little plug in there, just, Friday, rise and rip. But it's true, I will, I have definitely logged in and helped people, and I'm more than willing to do it. And I think we all have. So, I'm looking forward to what's next. It's a lot of opportunities.
Control your destiny. Sign up to CVRcade today. It's free to play. CVRcade.com. Thank you so much for listening once more. Wednesday, it's all the track building competition info you'll need. So make sure, keep your eye out for that. We've got an interview with Quinton Molyneux, the grand finale champion, coming out tomorrow as well. But until further notice, we've been the podcast for CVRcade, and we'll see you next time.